Here's Looney, but he's a beast. Down on the glass. Last shot of the first quarter, it's in! Buddy Hield!
Hello, everybody. Eric Apricot here. It did not look good for the Warriors after getting beat down 2 games in a row, but they looked at the tape and they figured they were defending Houston well in the half court, so if they could just limit their turnovers and bad fouls and don't let Houston take threes, then they would have a chance. But they were getting open shots, so they needed a couple of adjustments and for anybody to make open shots. And who knew that scoring 0 points in Game 6 was the then condition to activate Game 7 Buddy. In general, the Warriors emphasized cutting baseline behind the zone. Buddy is in Sengun's territory, but he and Jabari are busy negotiating the transfer of Moses Moody, so Buddy Hield is no longer registered in their database. Sengun realizes and tries to yell for someone to cover Buddy. At this moment, Steph attacks to create as much chaos as possible. He drives right at Buddy's new defender, and then Steph, pioneering new frontiers in terror, even more frightening than his hook passes, comes the blind backwards one-handed overhand flick. This should definitely be intercepted by Eason, but he never gave up on guarding Steph because no one ever got fired for grabbing Steph Curry. This ridiculous pass becomes a Buddy 3. The Warriors had been struggling against Houston's hybrid zone, which played Steph with 1 or 2 defenders and zoned everybody else. So the Warriors put Steph Curry off ball more and running off screens to make Houston make more choices in the zone. Steph gets a pin down. VanVleet grabs Steph going around the screen, then body bumps Steph trying to cut across. Steph tries to shove VanVleet out of the way, but VanVleet with a suave clothesline armbar. The Warriors have put themselves in Jimmy standard formation. Draymond in the dunker spot, 3 shooters on opposite side perimeter. Jimmy drives. VanVleet is trying to keep Steph from popping out, so Steph turns this into an inside screen. Dillon Brooks feels like he has to help, and Buddy Hield cuts into open space to punish the help. Here's Steph cutting off ball behind the zone. Dillon Brooks is tracking Steph Curry and tagging him and trying to pass him off to Steven Adams. While this whole exchange is happening, Buddy Hield sneaks off to the arc and Draymond alertly hits him. Here Draymond threatens to do a pick and roll. Fred VanVleet trying to organize a response, which allows Buddy to sneak behind him for half a second, and Steph punishes with the alert pass, and Buddy is evolving into his final form. Steph cutting baseline behind the zone. They try the good old Steph back screen for Jimmy. Houston handles the switch all right, but now they turn this into a trap and triangle behind. Steph, the quick release pass. If Jimmy goes fast, this is a 4-on-3 and Buddy Hield is open. Sengun hustles back into the play, but he ends up helping on Jimmy's drive, so Buddy's still open, and Buddy drifts down the arc to maintain a good passing angle for Jimmy. Houston has showed an incredible defense, but they're sometimes so disorganized on offense. There's no way you should be confused on this first play of the quarter. Eason says to enter the ball to Jabari. Jabari says throw it to Eason. Amen says I'm throwing it to you, Jabari. Jabari says fine, you're the boss. You can't tell, but this is Houston's version of the Warriors play head tap. The ball swings around the top. Thompson goes into the paint to set this cross screen for Sengun, but these guys can't decide who's swinging the ball to whom, and Amen doesn't set his screen soon enough. Sengun is wondering whether he can speak to the manager. Finally, the cross screen. Draymond sees this coming and signals to Looney that he's going to switch to Sengun. So, thus endeth the world's slowest head tap, and Sengun has 5 seconds ISO'd on Draymond Green, and he has to puke up this hairball of a shot. Houston making its last run. They go to their ultimate play, the VanVleet Sengun pick and roll. Sengun whumps Buddy and forces him to switch and rolls hard, which forces Buddy to switch. And now Sengun goes to work on the mismatch, and look at Buddy fight. He's fighting to make the entry pass hard. Draymond tells Podziemski to fly in to help, and Buddy says, what, I'm too small? No, you're too small. The beautiful block from behind, two-way Buddy. Huge stop from Buddy. Draymond sets the early screen. Dillon Brooks, by accident or on purpose, gets his foot on Draymond and is apparently shot by a sniper, which leaves Jimmy Butler to muscle his way right by VanVleet. What a turnaround. Houston goes back to the same play. Buddy tries to ice it, meaning he's going to overplay to force VanVleet away from the screen and into the waiting arms of Draymond. Sengun comes over to try again. Buddy jumps out again to force VanVleet away from the screen. Sengun flips his screen to be flat so VanVleet can get by. And now Sengun is clear for the roll. Look at this runway for a dunk, right? Wrong. Not on two-way Buddy's watch. Jimmy Butler with the, let's say, daring decision to IQ this out of the air over VanVleet, and Buddy's quick reflexes stop this from flying out of bounds. This should be a layup, but it turns into a clear path foul. Inbound play, ball swings to Jimmy. Notice that Houston is playing straight man-to-man defense. Buddy's hot shooting got Udoka to drop the zone, so the Warriors can run normal offense. Inverted pick and roll, Steph setting a screen for Jimmy, forces Jalen Green to switch. Buddy's cut clears out the entire side for Jimmy, and playoff Jimmy uses last bit of his depleted mana for this dagger. It's all but over for Houston now. Amen had a fantastic series, but in the end, Steph ended up outlasting him. Steph seems as fresh as ever here, and Amen was cramping up in Game 7, and Steph nearly picks him. Let's do a quick wellness check on Steve Kerr, watching his team trying not to blow a late lead. Status, dying inside. Sengun screens for Green. Draymond calls the switch. I don't know why Podziemski switched. Seems like Jimmy should have switched, but he does. There's the inbound. Podziemski is going to be too small to stop this. Sengun is 6'11". Podziemski is 6'4", but Steph says, "Don't worry, BP. Together, we are 12'7". That's just math. Excuse me, I believe you have my property. Yoink. No trap, no nothing. Steph one-on-one. Barbecues Jalen Green. Ugh, nasty. The game is all but over, but Steph's advanced night-night sensing technology tell him it is not quite time for night-night. Amen Thompson in desperation mode. Draymond rotates. Tough bank shot. Now it's nature documentary time to fight with Sengun for this rebound. But look at the gang rebounding. Sengun has no chance against this school of sharks. I guess it was Shark Week on the Discovery Channel. Sharks with arms or something. Buddy still hustling, parks himself on the wing, and this is the cherry on top of the dagger. So let's wrap up with a series closing celebration audit. Buddy hits the shot. Draymond says, "I've seen enough. It's time to declare night-night." And he looks at Steph for official confirmation. And yes, Steph has now confirmed the night-night, but most importantly, does Buddy Hield think it's night-night time? And Buddy says it is Weird Elvis Horsey Gangnam Style time. All right, Buddy, you just had the game of your life. You celebrate it any way you want. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And if you didn't enjoy this video, I promise I'll do better next time.
Great job by everybody on the team except Buddy. Is Buddy included tonight? 33 points.
I plead the fifth.